All right. It is Excuse the Duval and Me live podcast and talk show where we talk sports, we talk social content, and we talk everything Duval. That's why the show is called Excuse the Duval and Me. And we have Cap One.
How y'all
We have
doing?
Jahari the Jay the Great, and we have Camo, and we have our distinguished guest and gentleman, Mr.
Yes,
Garrett Dennis, Councilman Garrett Dennis. Please put
Thank
the
you.
title on that. You got to put that handle on that. And he is blessing us with his presence this evening. But first and foremost, before we start off, quick prayer, please. Quick.
All right, bow your heads, please. Lord, I'd just like to thank you for blessing us once again, for bringing us here, having the ability to come and speak our mind and help bring a light and focus not only on sports but social content in a city that we all love. Like, thank you for all the adversity that we personally went through to make this happen, and for your blessing making it so easy and seamless for us. And you just keep opening doors, and I thank you, Lord. In Jesus' name, amen.
In Jesus' name, amen. All right. So like I said, we have with us the Councilman Garrett Dennis, who is the maverick of our city council. Yes, and you know you are. I'm hoping that we're going to get an exclusive this taping. Maybe you're going to say you're going to run for mayor in the next upcoming election. What do you say?
Sounds good. Sounds good. Okay. Sounds good. Sounds good.
Oh, there we go. We got an exclusive. He's running for mayor.
Sheriff, property appraiser, clerk of court,
There you go. There you go. No, you are really shaking things up down there in City Hall, and I believe that's what your intention was. You took your job at the supervisor of elections really serious. I worked under you, with you training me and my mother-in-law and different people, and I just saw how you took your job seriously. You cared about everything you were doing, and it was just an amazing thing to work with you then, and I knew that you were going to be doing something great. And here you are now, the councilman. Here you are sitting with us talking about what we're going to be doing for the city on the first Black All Talk show. That we're just saying we want Duval to be great. We want to bring a lot of different things to the city, but it also needs to include everyone.
Everybody.
Yes,
I agree. I agree totally.
So what do you have do you have anything passionate that you want to tell us about that's going on in the city, that's going on with city council, that you want us to get behind, or what you want to do, because we want to be there for you?
Well, first of all, I just want to thank you all for having this outlet, because we don't have a venue like this where we can talk about issues that affect our community, people that look like us, and people, quite frankly, just love the city.
Yes.
I'm from Jacksonville, born and raised. I went to Reball High School, and I apologize about that, went to Reball, went on down to FAMU, came back.
Yes.
This is the place that I decided to come back and, raise my family.
Yes.
Just like your husband, you could have gone anywhere.
Yes.
But you decided, I decided to come back home.
Yes.
And a lot of people may or may not remember, I ran for city council in '99 and I lost. And I thought it was the worst thing that, could have ever happened. But I truly believe God was preparing me and protecting me for a time like
such a time
now.
as this.
That's right. That's right. And so I'm using my voice the way God wants me to use my voice for our people, because our city is under attack.
Yes, it is.
On every level.
Yes.
From JEA to the schools.
Yes.
Violence. Just the violence. Our city is under attack, and so if there's a hill that I'm going to die on, it's the hill fighting for my community.
Yes, exactly. And I see you doing that out there with the Eureka Gardens, because my daughter, she works at Little Caesars, and so they were calling in orders to them. And I was like, really? That's what we are. And then I saw you out there talking about the showers for the elderly and for the young folk. And it's just a lot of just going on. And I'm like, what's going on with it? But you're out there.
Yeah, our community just had the representation it has needed. For all these years.
Yes.
And let me tell you, government is ran by the people. It's truly the power of the people. And for so long, and if I can say this, and I know it really it's not the most political religious thing to say, but it's like our community. You go to the preacher for all the answers. And
Yes.
we don't have to go to the preacher for the answers.
No.
We go straight. Straight
To the people.
to God, and
Yes,
so
and yes.
and so in our community, our community looked at the political leaders for all the answers.
Yes.
And that's not the case
No.
when the power rests and lies in the
In
people.
people,
And
yes.
so what happened in Eureka Gardens, it had been decayed for years before I came in office. But what happened, those residents, they formed a group. And they came together, and that's how change actually happened over there. I was just the person to speak it for them,
Yes.
the advocate for
Give
them.
them the voice.
But they were actually the power. And just using that model, if we just come together as a community,
Yes.
there's nothing that we can't do and change.
No, and that's why we have this platform right now, and we want to be able to use that, and we want to bring in people such as yourself who can actually affect and make change, and who we could get behind. Not that we say we want you to be our Martin Luther King, because nobody. I don't want anyone to be martyred for anything, because you're fighting some things. You're fighting some beasts out there.
I want to live a long time.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. But we want to but it's strength in numbers, and there's protection in numbers. And when the herd comes together, and we go as a force together, we could get a lot accomplished. And so that's why I'm glad that you came. But my question that I have been waiting to, well, not question, but an issue that has been on my heart, because we saw that they're trying to, or proposing to close the Publix in Gateway. But I'm okay with that. What I want to ask you to see if we could get Gateway to become an outlet. Not maybe like one down in St. Augustine as big, or the one up in Darien, but right here where we are, right there off of 95, that's a perfect spot for people to jump down. You can have a Reebok, a Nike, Polo, that stuff is going to sell. But then it'll also bring jobs and economic growth to the area. And then also it will bring more police, more security, just a better upliftment. And just for that little outlet to be there, just a little quick outlet on both sides, I think that would really, really work. I think you need to take that to whoever is over that side, but a nice little outlet right there. It'll have cheap shoes for the kids, just all that kind of stuff in that area. We grew up around there. My grandmother's house is still over there. And I remember when Gateway was Gateway. You had On Stage, a JCPenney, you had everything right there.
I'm going to go back. Brass Zipper was in there right on the
You,
corner.
you know what I'm saying?
I'm telling my age now. Brass Zipper.
Cows, records, But, the kids will have jobs, people will have jobs. It would really bring something to that community. And it would be the first starting point, I believe, that if we could revitalize that Gateway area, that it would just reach its tentacles out into all the other parts of the city. But we got to start at home first. If we don't take care of home first, then what? And if it goes all the way down, we would be able to bring somebody back in, I believe, if Publix leaves. But if we could just really think about doing like an outlet, I'm not saying Gucci. I'm not saying Gucci's going to sell. They might be running up out the store with the stuff. But a Reebok, they're stealing out of St. Augustine, you understand what I'm saying? Right. But Reebok, Nike, Ralph Lauren, Polo, those little outlets and things like that. And why send the money out to St. Augustine? Why send it up to Darien, Georgia, when we can have it right here with an access point right off of 95?
I think that's a great idea. Now, let me find out where you live. I want to make sure you don't live in my district, because it sounds like you have, that political voice that, get out there and be a forerunner. So
I did. I was supposed to run for mayor. I went and got my book. I went and did all of that, and I did. I let fear overtake me, and I would have been the only black Democratic woman if I would have ran when the Lord told me. Yeah. I may have not have won, but my voice and my platform that I'm doing now would have had more reach, right? If I would have had it and did it. But I went, I got the book and everything, but I was like 6,000 petitions, or like $11,000.
Yep.
I was like, Lord, I don't have neither. And so I kept getting scared, and I was like, I'm going to send my kids out, I'm going to do those kind of things, and we were going to get the petition done, especially when I saw Mia right there at the Potter's, at the bistro, just getting petitions signed, because I signed hers. And I was like, maybe that's something I could do, but I did.
Well, let me tell you, our city would be in a better place than it is now because the current administration is, let me tell you, just decimating our city.
Yes.
And if we don't stand up as a community,
yes,
we will not recognize
the city.
This city.
No, because it's a money grab right now.
It's a money grab.
It's a money grab.
It's a money grab.
Yes.
But back to your idea about Gateway, I think it's a great idea. You know, I just don't know how to solve it. I mean, you look at Regency Mall,
Yes.
that's in better shape than Gateway Mall, and they're struggling. I know we set aside like $3.5 million, you know, to incentivize grocery stores. You know, no companies are taking the bait.
No.
To move into our community. So it's a problem that has decayed over time, and no one has addressed the problem.
No.
And now it's a cancer.
Yes,
you know,
that has grown, but it could be eradicated.
Yeah,
I believe that.
absolutely.
I believe if we
Absolutely.
can get with the right people, because I sent a letter to both mayors, current administration, Curry. I sent one to him in regards to that, but in the same vein, I also sent it back when Mayor Brown. And of course, you didn't hear anything because you don't know whether or not your letter is getting to where it needs to go or whatever. But I did send it to both administrations because I believe that if we show that we can do it there, then we can go anywhere throughout the city.
Right.
But we got to take care of our home first. And Gateway, I mean, I know structurally it may be in a little disrepair, but it's I believe the bones are still good, and I believe the people are still good.
They are, and we have to patronize our
Yes, I know.
our businesses
And you
and
have
our
to give them
community.
something that they want.
Yeah, just like we're in the cookbook, you know,
Yes.
and so
That's
people
what
need to
we're
come
doing.
and patronize the cookbook
Yes.
instead of going over the Piccadilly,
There
you know,
you
across
go.
across the way.
Exactly,
You need to come right here.
1827 North Pearl Street. So please come out with us. Next question, right quick. Go ahead.
What you were saying actually led into my question. I wanted to know, really, how did you feel about the current administration with Lenny Curry and the current sheriff, and what to me has been a failure because they ran on protecting the community and they were going to be out and going to protect us. And I know, right, and the violence, and they keep telling us that it's gangs. I don't see all these gangs. I'm sorry. I mean, maybe, yeah, I see a lot of killing. I see youth without things to do, which leads to, I guess, juvenile delinquency. But I don't see all the gangs. I just see a bunch of restless young people with nothing to do, no hope, no outlets, no way to help themselves financially. I don't know, educational-wise, if we're getting out helping them like we always talk about. They used to have the red cap and things of that nature. And I was wondering, you know, what we could do to help in the community to assist you to get, you know, more things done and get our community headed in the right direction.
So you asked me quite a few questions, and so I don't know how raw y'all want me to be. Okay, how raw you want me to be? So the current mayor and I, you know, back in 2015, I think we all came in. It was like 11 of us. We all came in kumbaya, right? You know, all optimistic. You know, trying to do what's right for the city. And so he and I, we walked hand in hand through Eureka Gardens. We even flew up to D.C., you know, to bring, you know, reform on housing. But it was shortly after, you know, his true agenda started to reveal itself. It wasn't for our community. It wasn't for the betterment. And I'll never forget, it was a vote coming up, and he had called all the black council members. And so me, you know, I'm the youngest of my family, right? You know, I'm a little, you know, I hate to use this word, but I'm a little rebellious. You know, I'm a firecracker. And so I never forget, he said, hey, you you better vote this particular way. If you don't vote, I'm going to turn the spigot off in the black community. Really? And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. You know, and so, you know, my response, nothing from nothing leaves nothing. We ain't get nothing. We don't have nothing. So I'm going to vote what's right, not vote for what you want. And so that was the beginning of the end of our relationship, because I'm not going to vote for political expediency. I'm going to vote for what's right, because number one, I have to look at my kids, my family. I have to look at, I have to look at them every day. And so when I wake up, I want to sleep good at night. And then my community, they elected me. So and God, that's right. So that was the beginning of the end. In our relationship. And then some other things happened, which it was highly publicized, where they threatened my family, threatened bodily harm. I go everywhere. I put the full court press. I go everywhere with Lucille now. Just in case something jump off. Lucille. But anyway, and so that was the beginning of the end. And so as I started looking at their priorities, it wasn't for the uplifting of the community. Photo ops with the black kids, the poor kids. But when we really need, some help, where are they? They're not around. They're the Jaguar gangs, and we've had more murders than we ever had, right? And murders and the homicide and all the crime. Those are just symptoms of the problems. Now, let me tell you, I could have fallen by the wayside growing up. We all could have. But what kept me, I had a job growing up. I worked at Winn-Dixie, bagging groceries. And so that kept me out of the street. That kept me out of the street. And so you can't tell me jobs, opportunities, hope, things that we can give, and it doesn't cost that much. I'll give you an example. When the little boy got killed over at Raines a year or so ago, the mayor came out with a couple of city council members and said, well, we're going to throw $300,000 towards crime. The very next day, he gave $400,000 to a dog park. $300,000 to fight crime, but $400,000 to a dog park. And so that goes to show you that the priority really wasn't there. We increased the sheriff budget. We gave the sheriff $35 million, increasing his budget. Let me tell you what you can do with $35 million. How many people you can put to work? Red cap. Things like that. So, I mean, if you really get down in the weeds, the priority isn't to uplift our community. As you all know, I introduced a bill to decriminalize marijuana. And so it was killed by the council, right? And so I can't bring it back for a year. Now, study shows marijuana is used evenly across racial lines. Whites use it just as much as blacks, but blacks are 5 times higher to get arrested for marijuana. Even go a little step further, the governor passed, the state legislature and the governor signed the hemp law. Basically, hemp and marijuana, it's the same thing. And so all the state attorneys, most of the state attorneys around the state said they're not prosecuting any marijuana cases because there's no way to prove if it's marijuana versus hemp. But guess what we're doing in Jacksonville? We're arresting everybody. So you can't smell. If a police officer rolls up on a car, you can't smell. You can't just smell and say, okay, it's hemp versus marijuana. But you're going to jail. And so it was so hypocritical because most of those, well, first of all, most of the stops wasn't for marijuana. It was maybe a headlight out or a tail light, and then it led to marijuana. So, but it was so hypocritical because you have all of these people on council saying they're conservative, they're fiscally conservative. Do you know if a police officer, when they arrest somebody, they're off the street for 5 hours to process, whether it's for marijuana or what, but for marijuana, 5 hours. On top of that, it costs $900 just to process one person. That's not even spending the night in jail. And so in 18 months, there were 900 individuals arrested for marijuana with only less than 20 grams, and that was the only charge. I mean, I had calls, people that were arrested for having a roach. And it was so funny. A couple of weeks ago, my daughter said, hey, Daddy, so people go to jail for having roaches? I was like, no, baby, not that kind of roach. but to answer your question, the priority isn't to empower our community, because if you think about it, if our community gets empowered, then we run the city. They don't want that. I mean, that's right.
Another thing too, like my question was, and this always has been, I had a little time to look at other sides of town, like Bartram. I got to see Bartram and Nocatee blossom and bloom over these last 4 years, and it's crazy how these communities have come up and they have seemed like everything that our neighborhoods have lacked for the last 20, 25 years. How is it that all of that stuff is allocated and done, redone, rehashed, refurbished? The South Side is always rehashed, refurbished, maybe every 5 to 10 years. Something's new and added, but in our neighborhood, nothing is new and added unless it's a church or a liquor store. All these things pop up. Like, Gateway shouldn't look like that. Gateways look like that ever since I was a little boy. So my thing is, how does that change? Even the build quality of nice homes. You can go to the airport, they building houses, and we think that, oh, okay, that's nice. No, because in 5 years, it's like a Happy Jack house. But if you go in Bartram, those houses are built, it's a whole, you don't hear your feet. You don't hear your feet walking on the floor. You can tap on the wall and it's solid. Everything is nice. It's built different. And it's like, okay, what if somebody that did have some money, that did have the money to spend the same kind of money, but they're not getting the same kind of house because of the area in the neighborhood? I don't think that's, like, is that where the money's allocated at in certain areas, or is it diversified that way because of it's been, us being in these neighborhoods? Is that the reason why? Or is it because they have more money invested?
A little of both. I've seen on council where an African American council member will introduce a bill appropriating, $10,000, and boy, we have to have all kind of documents. Why you need the money, just all sorts of things. But, another council member on the other side of town can introduce a bill, $1, $2, $3 million, and it's just sign off. Oh, it's a great idea, and it's wrong, So, kind of goes back when your mom say we have to be twice, as prepared. Yeah. On another note, it has to do with infrastructure. The city just isn't prioritizing the infrastructure in our community. Now, let me just give you an example. So Forest Park. Forest Park is right there at Forest Street and I-10. Yeah. That part was contaminated. Yes. Completely contaminated. The city, before I got on council 10, 12 years ago, shut the park down. They promised that they were going to clean it up. Didn't clean it up. Well, a developer came in. Matter of fact, he was the finance chair for Lenny Curry's reelection. Bought the land, bought the park for like $1.5 million. And guess what's happening right now? Guess what the city is doing? Cleaning up the contamination. Yeah. But not only that, what's really the kicker is that they're going to build a charter school right there, right? But look at that prime real estate that a park was pretty much given for. He's doing that with Shad Khan and everybody too. For peanuts on. Yes. For pennies on the dollar. Yes. But if you look at it, that development is going to push through our neighborhoods. And one of the things that I've been doing at my community meetings, say, hey, listen, now's the time for you all to get your paperwork in order, your life, your estates and stuff in order, because what has happened, someone dies, they don't have a will, they're got 10 heirs, it's mama, brother, cousin, because how the property transfer distributed through. Thank you. And so So then the property is going to be taken, it's going to be derelict, and then that's going to have all that regentrification, and it's coming. So it's a two-pronged thing.
Springfield,
Yeah.
gentrification.
So it's a couple things we have to do. Number one, we have to elect people that's going to fight for
the people,
for the resources,
Yes.
and then we're going to have the people that stand in our communities and say, listen, you got to do your part by having your
life in order.
Your life in order.
Yes.
And I know we get busy. We get busy sometimes in our communities, and we have so much going on that we don't get our stuff together.
No.
So again,
it's hard for us to get our stuff together when you're up and working
right.
and you worry about the kids, and it's a lot that goes on to be a person of color,
right.
and try to get things done.
And so I'm sorry for talking about so much, but it is a lot, and for so long our community hasn't been represented.
No.
And I heard one of the Congress women up in Boston, she's part of the squad. She said that it's time out for having a black face as elected if they're not speaking black
Exactly.
issues.
No.
And so when I'm down at City Hall, I don't speak black.
No, because that's not what it's about. It's not just about us.
But make no mistake, I'm 100%
black.
Black.
Yes.
I'm 100%.
No.
And I'm going to voice those issues that hadn't been brought up in the past.
Let me ask you this: do we have anything in the works for like a black investments, like how you have the Downtown Investment Authority, who are trying to get some things going while the money grab is going? Do we have any black investors that could pour into maybe Gateway or pour into somewhere else, but black investors who want to see some things? Hey, I've even reached out and sent messages to Tyler Perry telling him to try to look into Jacksonville. I'm serious, because I believe that if we pour the different cultures, having theater and arts and different music, that's what we talk about on here, and trying to bring different things, I believe we can infuse and give it the boost that it needs. Right now, everybody, like we said, they're doing the money grab. They're not worried about us. So we got to be worried about us. But a lot of us don't know how to get things done. And that's why I reached out to you, because I'm not saying that you can get everything done, but I know that we could get some traction going. We could get our voices out here. We could start speaking about what things need to be done, and so that when elections do come up, people know what we're voting for and who we need to get behind. And that's, so if we have something like that, please share it with us so that we can put our voices and send our petitions in to those different people, because I think we need some kind of like a downtown investment authority, but a black downtown investment authority, so that we're in the mix when the money grab is going on.
So so it's a lot, and it's complex, and
Yes.
I think the biggest thing that we could do right now as a community is stop the sale of JEA. And
we were getting to that, but there you go.
Let me explain the setup. So if you go back and look at the history of JEA, and we're just talking about the board at this point, because JEA's board is that's like the cream of the board. That's the board that you want to get on. For years, if you go back and look at the history of JEA, we have fought to get an African American as a board member. And so in the past, 10, 15 years, they always have like one black to say, okay, well, we checked that box, right? So, and it's only a 7-member board. And so now that a sale is pending, or they're trying to push a sale, they're now stacking 4 African Americans on the JEA board. It's only a 7-member board.
Wow. So basically, they're gonna be the fall.
So they're gonna be the fall. Yeah. Say, look, it's the African Americans on JEA board that push the sale. Yeah. Not only that, when it goes to the voters, if it gets that far to the voters, if we can't stop it on city council and it goes to the voters, it will be the African American community, the North Side, that will make or break the sale of JEA. So it's all been set up as a smoke screen to put African Americans running the board. And guess what? if the sale happens, none of those profits and benefits, financial benefits, trickle back down to our community. Let me tell you, it's one of the biggest heists I've ever seen. If you just sit back and just look at how the mayor and and the corruption in the city, it's just unbelievable.
That's what I spoke of in the last episode about. It all starts with leadership, proper leadership. I think the voting turnout this past year for everything was like the poorest I've ever seen since I've been living here in Jacksonville. Nobody even said anything about it. You barely even seen ads. You rarely even seen anything about town halls and getting to know who was doing what. So I think the discouragement is, hey, I think a lot of people are saying, hey, nothing has changed. Violence has gotten worse. Nobody's saying nothing to the mayor. Nobody's holding him accountable. Not as far as, you get what I mean? Like, there's nothing, like, when something happens, it's different from when it was Mayor Brown was in office, per se. It was different. You heard way more backlash when something wasn't right. Nobody's saying nothing to these two crooked dudes that's in office. We know that it's payola. We know what it is when we see it, and nobody's holding them accountable, just like they're not holding our other leadership that's at a higher place accountable for things that are wrong. You know what I mean? And like you say, it's people like you that's on the front lines, people like me on the front lines working in the robotics department with kids that are actually trying and doing something different. You know what I mean? And being in that, like that alone, like robotics, they have like over 400 and something teams now, and it's still growing. It's getting bigger and bigger in North Florida, and they're trying to move to Central Florida. And this is about the kids in the future, from 5 through I think 18, something like that. So that's something big. They don't talk about these things. So, like I said, man, I appreciate you for, giving that knowledge, because we know that everybody's not Superman and things are not going to change overnight, but we know what to do now, and, thanks for that information.
Where you from? Who run this hill? If it ain't from these podcast.